My 1204. So here you have your motor, your belt, your top, your upper head drive, and your lower head drive, or not lower head, your rotary hook drive, the lower uh, gearing. You've got an encoder here and an encoder here, and these actually tell the machine what position the heads are at, and the the heads and the hook. So the timing. Now, wonderful. And this keeps it all in sync so that so that they're all moving in the same time. From there, you've got your actual heads, and the all the complicated nonsense inside the head right here is actually the most important and probably the most complicated out of all the other parts aside from the circuitry. And what you got here is you've got you've got this right here, which is your presser foot driver. Which, if we go over here to the one head I'm actually taking off because I can, you've got these little white pegs, and that is what drives the presser foot. These little white pegs right here, and those are basically just so that it presses down, so that it has its own separate driver for the presser foot and connected to springs and some other stuff. As the next part is the actual reciprocator slash jump base right here, and what you got here when it's working, you've got the driver. The needles are actually driven by this little component right here, and the reason that you got this complicated little mechanism is that this solenoid over here is what releases the needle. So, like, when it's actually the needles are engaged, they're at 100 which is usually the normal like threading point. The needle is actually lower down, right around here, in terms of how far down everything is. But because that at that point the hoop is you can't get a hoop on, you have to disengage it. And so, and whenever you switch to different needles, you have to disengage the original needle, because it shifts the colors at 100 as well. So when the actual needle goes down and up, and then kind of levers itself back on. So, or it's actually lower. So let's actually set this to 100. Roughly about there. So here's the location of where it starts. But if we actually look over at we can't get back there. So if we actually look at this head side on, there we go. Side on, this starts down here. This starts right around down here, and then the angle of the actual jump base will lever the spring up and onto this and start driving the needle, and then driving and lifting, because it doesn't just push it down and then springs back up. It actually pulls it back up with it. Then over here, you've got this part right here, which these rollers, and this controls the take-up lever. And what was I going to say? What actually surprised me, because I've never actually had these apart before, is that the cam gear that drives everything, and that's underneath here, this little white sort of thing. I didn't know that that was plastic, or not plastic, but some sort of synthetic material. Um, I knew that it was there because I have all the manuals, all the breakdowns, and I actually read through them and try to understand how this machine and where possible failure points are so I can solve problems like this. Um, but I just never knew that was plastic. Huh, interesting. Anyway, uh, so let's see. Oh, and you got here. This is the back of the tensioners. Um, all those little wonderful sensors and whatnot. Yay. Um, from there, oh, now if you come over here, I don't have the head one off very far because I don't want it to, I'm actually not going to take any of the rest of the heads off. I only wanted to take the one off. Um, because I've actually got plenty of space to get to this. I just wanted to investigate and play with it a little bit. Uh, the only thing that actually synchronizes these, any of these heads together, or attaches them together, is this little bar right here. That's it. They make a really big deal of making it look all uniform and all synchronized and in one solid piece, but the only thing that actually aligns everything is this one little bar that attaches to these little screws right here. And that's it. That's all. And you've got one needle change driver, which is this, which actually kind of nope, the phone's just not gonna work. You'll have to look upside down for a second. Whoop, whoop. Um, you've got these little bearings, and that this this rotates, and then if you notice, you've got a little encoder or sensor right here that tells it where it's at its peak point. On the little gear, there is a small section of straightaway, and that so you've got about between here and here and here, just enough space that no matter where you're going, it's not the alignment is still there, but that doesn't tell where it is. So then you've got over here this little sensor that has these panels, and this tells what needle it's on. It's interesting. Um, from there you've got your the thread picker, not picker, thread excess thread hook. It basically, the only purpose of this is to take up that last little bit of thread, so you don't have dangling threads when you do the trim. Eh, it's it just kicks out and does it. The actual trimming knife is underneath the panel, or the needle plate, and I don't really want to get into that. What's interesting though, between the single head, they're both technically driven by a solenoid or activated by a solenoid, but the the trim knife on at least this forehead is completely solenoid driven. So it's the thing that kicks it out and pulls it back in is a solenoid leveraging against all four head, um, things. Descriptive, yes, I know. Um, let's see what else. Whereas if we actually go to the single head here, um, the way that this one works is, let's see, let's turn that off. That doesn't help much. Basically, there's this solenoid here kicks this. You can't see it through my hand. There's a little black lever, and it kicks it into a cam right here. And and that cam rotates along with the machine, with the head. And so, and then it leverages it out and leverages the needle up and then back, or the rotary trim knife out and then back.